Let's talk about the media. For traditional media, we have television, newspaper, radio, film, which we have been using for the past countless decades. Now, thanks to the internet, we see new media, which includes stuff like online blogs, social media, video streaming services, audio streaming services, which include stuff like the music we listen to on Spotify, and of course, podcasts. Podcasting has become increasingly popular, not just to consume but also to create and produce. I mean, check this guy out. This guy is a senior and he's creating content like this on the internet. That's amazing. Thanks to the accessibility of various podcast publishing platforms, we see various podcasts created by Malaysians. Now you're probably wondering, what's so special about podcasting? We speak to Mr. Kelvin, a professional podcaster, for his insights into the world of podcasting.
I find audio podcasting a very intimate experience. Right, reason being that when you listen to a podcast, it's basically just you and the host. So for half an hour, for an hour, it's basically just you listening to one person speaking. And you feel like you can befriend them, like hey, I already know you, you know. But yeah, hence why I call it intimate.
What do you think about, say, the accessibility of podcast publishing platforms such as, just to put it out there, maybe Anchor, Buzzsprout? Like, anybody can be a podcaster these days with just the click of a button. What are your thoughts on this? Is this like a good thing or a bad thing?
I think the more podcasts there is, the better it is for the industry itself as a whole. There's no point gatekeeping podcasts, right? Everyone has their own opinion. Everyone has the story to tell, you know. And podcasting, just to start a podcast itself, is so accessible now compared to like when we started 3-4 years ago, or like 4 or 5 years ago.
How many local Malaysian podcasters do you know so far?
I know a number of them. Like straight off the bat, you know, Aissa from the Seek to Speak podcast, Roeshan from the Rumah podcast, the Pendulum Boys from the Pendulum Show, Loy Jun from Take a Power podcast. I would confidently say that, like, I know or have befriended a lot of local podcasters.
And on top of that, you guys also started this Malaysian podcasters group on Facebook with a number of other Malaysian podcasters.
It's called the MPC, Malaysia's Podcasters Community. We have about, last I checked, it was close to 400 members, and a majority of them, I would say 99.95% of them are Malaysian.
What would the reasons be for, like, Malaysians especially for starting a podcast, if you know?
Throughout the conversations I have with local podcasters, they always have a great idea. Take Aissa, for example, the Seek to Speak podcast. Her podcast revolves around woman empowerment. You know, when she started, there weren't much. Now there's a number of other woman-centric or like woman empowerment podcasts that are made by local Malaysians and local brands as well. It's all about the idea.
What do you think about how this all contributes to the saturation? Should I say the oversaturation of content in the podcasting field?
I think oversaturation is also a good thing. Right? Saturation is one thing. Saturation in genre is another thing. But in the end of the day, is how you stand out and how do you create the value and entertainment to your potential audiences. Give me a reason to press play. You know, you are expecting me to sit down and listen to you speak for 30 minutes, 60 minutes. Why should I press play? You know, what is so valuable in your content that I should listen to it? So that's the big question mark that all content creators, I believe, have gone through before.
It's interesting to see how podcasts stand out and are being received by netizens, but you're probably wondering what kind of effort is going into the production of these podcasts. Let's take a look at how podcasts are made. A podcaster's setup and equipment may vary from case to case. Some may have a full-blown studio with professional mic setups, audio interface, or if you're like me, you would just have a simple microphone and a laptop. It all starts with an idea, what you want to talk about and with whom. So a script will be written, and if there is the need for a guest speaker, they will be contacted and respond if they're available and willing. Then both hosts and guests will meet either on set, in the studio, or in my case, over a call on Discord. Recording begins and the flow of the conversation is carried out and recorded. The recording of the episode is saved. Next is editing. This is where the podcast content is cut down and refined so that it gives the listener concise information and even a cleaner listening experience. After that is done, the podcast episode is published on the respective podcast channel via the publishing platform of choice and distributed to various listening platforms. Podcast updates are posted on social media pages and shared to followers. These posts also need a bit of work, which goes into typing out the caption copy, designing the artwork poster for the new episode, and even a waveform preview. So, after all this process, do you think making a podcast is easy?
It's not easy. It's definitely not easy.
Seeing as to how media is utilized, it's no mistake that podcasting has the potential for many great opportunities. With this, I sought not only Kelvin's input, but the insights of 2 other local podcasters as well.
There is a market for some kind of sponsorship. Seek to Speak doesn't accept monetary sponsorship. We don't respond to rate cards requests, but we do respond to product placement or sponsorships because we like to run competitions and giveaways. So we like to give that to our audience, but we don't like to put a price on our podcast episode. But there is a market for it, I do believe. If you look at opportunities in other way, I feel like there are a lot of other opportunities. I think learning and networking is definitely a big opportunity.
I think personally that there's going to come a time where people will be able to podcast full time. But again, I think that it's going to happen, I don't know, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years again. So for me, I think there's a lot of potential and there's a lot to get out of it. But it's just, you have to play the long game.
It's no surprise that media is growing and becoming more expensive than ever, taking different forms and allowing all sorts of people to create various types of content. It only calls to show that if we can do it, you can do it too. That's all from me. Now signing out. Peace.